Today, we officially launched the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. We collectively have dozens of projects already underway around the globe. And I'm proud to announce the United States will mobilize $200 billion in public and private capital over the next 5 years for that partnership. I want to be clear. This isn't aid or charity. It's an investment that will deliver returns for everyone, including the American people and the people of all our nations. It'll boost all of our economies.
So according to our good buddy Joe Biden, his $200 billion investment in building up the economic infrastructure of other countries will, and I quote, deliver returns for everyone, including the American people and the people of all our nations. It will boost all of our economies. Now that, my friends, is definitely a reach to say the very least. But you know what isn't a reach? The fact that closing the black-white racial wealth gap would actually benefit the American economy by the trillions of dollars. That's not a reach at all. And as a matter of fact, this is something that has been researched rather thoroughly by a multitude of financial institutions, Stanford University professors, and even the president and CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. So now let's take a quick look at how anti-black racism has negatively impacted the United States economy. And we're going to do that by taking a quick look at Citigroup's report titled Closing the Racial Inequality Gaps, the Economic Costs of Black Inequality in the U.S. The analysis in the report that follows shows that if 4 key racial groups for blacks, wages, education, housing, and investments, were closed 20 years ago, $16 trillion could have been added to the U.S. economy. Stop just a moment and really let that sink in. Over the last 2 decades, anti-black racism has cost the U.S. economy $16 trillion. Okay? $16 trillion. I just have to make sure to highlight that for a moment. Now let's keep reading. And if the gaps are closed today, $5 trillion can be added to the U.S. GDP over the next 5 years. Now let's look at this little quick graphic that they have here on the 4th page of this report. A pathway towards equality. Not addressing racial gaps between blacks and whites has cost the U.S. economy up to $16 trillion over the past 20 years. Closing the racial wealth gap could have added $2.7 trillion in income available for consumption or investment. Facilitating easy access to higher education for black students could have increased lifetime incomes between $90 and $113 billion. Improving access to housing credit might have added an additional 770,000 black homeowners, adding $218 billion in sales and expenditures. Providing fair and equitable lending to black entrepreneurs might have resulted in the creation of an additional $13 trillion in business revenues and potentially created 6.1 million jobs per year. If these racial gaps were closed today, we could see $5 trillion in additional GDP over the next 5 years. Now, on the Marketplace podcast, Nova Sofa stated, the study divides this into several areas where it points out pervasive discrimination against black Americans, such as homeownership and low wages compared to whites. But the biggest factor is entrepreneurship. $13 trillion lost to the economy because black people are not getting the same access to business loans. Big banks are too often turning them down, or black entrepreneurs get less capital to work with. One of the authors of the 104-page study, Catherine L. Mann, who was the global chief economist at Citigroup, stated, many black entrepreneurs end up going into businesses that don't generate many jobs and don't generate as much wealth because they don't have access to capital to start businesses that will generate more wealth, more jobs, and more income for more people, not only themselves. Now, Citigroup is not the only institution that came to this conclusion. Brookings came to this conclusion in their report titled The Economic Gains from Equity. with the authors of this report being Shelby R. Buckman of Stanford University, Laurel Y. Coy of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, Mary C. Daly of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, and Lily M. Settleman of Boston University. And there is also another report by McKinsey & Company titled The Economic Impact of Closing the Racial Wealth Gap, which also comes to the same conclusion. Anti-black racism is literally destroying the U.S. economy, and this clearly is not a secret. So then the question has to be asked, if we all know this to be true, and trust me, the United States government definitely knows this to be true, then why isn't the Biden administration doing anything about this to save our economy? Well, the answer is simple. Biden is more concerned with maintaining the racial hierarchy of whites at the top more than he is about the actual economy. Now, one of the things that people love to talk about is how high the U.S. national debt is. And as we speak, the current debt of our country is $30 trillion. Now, if the government would have actually put an end to systemic anti-black racism 2 decades ago that has costed the United States $16 trillion, then how much lower would our national debt be today? People are always talking about how our national debt is so high that we'll never be able to pay it off. But that's not true. If America would just close the black-white racial wealth gap and get serious about putting an end to systemic anti-black racism, then we would be able to begin the process of paying down that debt. Let me cite the Citigroup report again, where it stated, and if the gaps are closed today, $5 trillion can be added to the U.S. GDP over the next 5 years. It's very simple, America. Stop anti-black racism. That's it. There's your answer. But they won't do what we all know to be right. So then what does that say about the U.S. government? It says that the racial hierarchy of whites at the top mean more than having an actual system of justice that produces a prosperous economy. And that, my friends, is what Biden's $200 billion international investment is about as well. President Biden on Sunday relaunched a global infrastructure initiative meant to counter China's growing influence. You see? It's all about maintaining that racial hierarchy nationally and globally. And in this case, concerning the $200 billion, we're talking about the global racial hierarchy. Now let's read that again. President Biden on Sunday relaunched a global infrastructure initiative meant to counter China's growing influence, saying that the U.S. will commit $200 billion in the effort in public and private financing to boost projects in developing and middle-income countries. The plan, called the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, is a rebranding of the Build Back Better World initiative that Biden unveiled at last year's G7 summit. The partnership was initially named after Biden's sweeping domestic policy agenda that has since stalled in Congress. The Build Back Better World? So the idea to spend all of this money was Biden's idea. Okay, got it. While Biden did not make explicit mention of China in his remarks on Sunday, the initiative is widely viewed as an effort to counter China's Belt and Road Initiative launched in 2013 that aims to invest in infrastructure development in dozens of countries. Now, when you go to the White House fact sheet, though there are numerous countries that will be receiving these funds, you'll notice very quickly that the majority of this money is going to assist multiple countries on the continent of Africa. Now, why is that? Well, it seems that every century there is a fight for Africa to obtain the resources of that land. And typically this fight is between European nations, which does include the United States government. But this time around, in the 21st century, there is a new player in the game. China. And this money that European nations are throwing at Africa is an attempt to curb China's influence. But if we're being honest, China won already, and having Africa in their back pocket, along with Russia backing them up, spells the end of the Western reign and dominance over the globe, and that's what Biden is looking to prevent. Now, don't be fooled for a moment and think that this money is actually going to help the people of Africa. it's going to their corrupt leaders to keep as many of them as possible in the pockets of the Western powers. Understand, every move Biden makes, and to be fair, every president before him as well as after him, is to maintain the racial hierarchy. So don't ever be fooled by talks of how building stronger economies internationally will help our economy in America. That's a lie, because if Biden wanted to build a strong economy in America, he could by putting the clamps on systemic anti-black racism and closing the black-white racial wealth gap. But we all know he won't do that, because the name of the game is whites on top and everybody else at the bottom. And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. Please make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a direct text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as a protection plan for myself in case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe. I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And for those who have issues with joining Patreon, you could also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button, and that way you can become an official channel member for as little as $3 a month as well. And lastly, if you have not already, please make sure you join the emailing list. There is no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the audience with me. And the link to that will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.